Okay, let's talk about the way too early MVP race for this season. And I think if the season ended after 7 games, I think Giannis would be the winner. We'll get to other guys, especially Luka. But, with Giannis, as I was looking for something to have a take on for his season besides just he's really good, the two things I will say is I think they've sprinkled in a little more of him being the ball handler and pick and rolls. And I think with Brook being back after missing pretty much all of last regular season, it kind of makes sense. They've run a few more of those. They've had Bobby Portis screen for Giannis up top a little bit. I do think there's also been a few more plays here and there where Giannis has been operating like on the wing or closer to the baseline, and whether that leads to a post up or him just essentially saying, I'm going to run in a straight line and you're not going to stop me because I can just finish over you, around you, spin around you, draw a foul, whatever it is. I mean, it's Giannis. Like, I don't need to tell you that Giannis is really good here. The other thing to talk about with the Bucks is that defensively, they've made some adjustments where they're staying home on shooters a little more often, whereas in the past, they'd be more willing to gamble on getting a decent closeout on at least an okay shooter around the top of the key or whatever for the sake of just really, really loading up the paint. Whereas now it's a little more of Brook is in a drop. We're not as aggressive in the help defense from guards specifically. Giannis is still going to be in those help positions. We got Drew on the defender's back. And so far, it's been extremely successful. When I did my MVP prediction, and I picked Embiid, one thing I had in there was like, well, are the voters going to give Giannis the third MVP? Because, there's only 8 guys ever who have at least 3 MVPs, so it's extremely difficult to get. Well, as of now, he's going to deserve it and then some. Next, we go to Luka. The one thing that Luka is doing this year, besides having an outrageous usage rate that I think is going to rival one of James Harden's Rockets years, I don't remember which one exactly, and also Westbrook's MVP season, is he's posting up way more often. The numbers will tell you it's about twice as much. Whenever he has the opportunity to get a smaller guy on him, which is going to be from a switch a lot of the time, he has been ruthless. There was a play in the Jazz game. He had Jordan Clarkson on the three-point line, immediately goes back to the basket and just starts pushing him and pushing him and pushing him, and before you know it, we're basically right in front of the rim. And he has been doing this so much this season, and I do think it's leading to more free throw attempts, and he's also shooting the most shots he's ever shot in the restricted area. Some of that could also be that, for as basic as it sounds, he's just going to take an extra step in instead of going to the floater as much. You're still going to see the turnaround jumpers and all that from him, in the paint and all that. But, yeah, it seems that the Dallas answer to no Jalen Brunson is more Luka. You look at touches per game, Dinwiddie's 30 behind him, and then after that, Luka's basically double the rest of the team. And the Christian Wood, Jason Kidd thing, it continues to be a thing. It's the number one topic amongst Mavericks fans. So yeah, I think Giannis and Luka are 1 and 2. After that, the order in which I name guys is not a specific order. It's just when I happen to talk about them. And it's a pretty long list of guys. So let's talk about Ja. Of course, I did that video on him. There have been a few more off-ball actions that I've been a fan of ever since that. There was one play recently where he did a slip screen with Tyus Jones, which got him a drive to the rim. He got fouled. One where Tyus threw it to Steven Adams on the free throw line. Ja on the opposite wing starts cutting immediately. Steven Adams slips it to him. That led to either a basket or him getting fouled, one of the two. The three-pointer, it has cooled off a little bit the last couple games, but overall, Ja's percentage from three has still been good. And the free throws have also just been going in a lot more. If he's just going to be straight up better at free throws, that's massive. And then, of course, he is, in my opinion, the best improvisational and attacker of the basket in the league, which to me just means whatever the hell he's got to do in the 1 second after he comes around the screen with whatever dribble move he needs to get by the big or to get through the help defense and then create whatever layup he has to create in midair to finish. He's just going to do it, man. It's wild. Let's talk about Tatum. So his last game against the Cavs wasn't his best one. Basically with Tatum, throughout his career, he's just gone through different check marks where it was not being as reliant on mid-range jumpers and fallaways, and then it was getting a little stronger, improving the handle to where he could finish more effectively and also just handle more physicality and just constantly hammer it into him to attack and not just fall in love with the jumper all the time. And then it was being a better decision maker coming around screens, which we saw in the playoffs when he faced 3 of the best defenses in the Bucks, Heat, and Warriors. Also throw in a couple of times where he's going to screen for guards and all that, the Marcus Smart Tatum pick and roll that I'm going to mention a million times in my life. And so now in year 6 at 24 years old, this is what you get. If you want some super deep thing that I don't even know if I should care about it or not, he has had slightly more of his three-pointers come off of movement off ball as well as catch and shoots than just simple side steps or the step back or whatever it really is with him technically. Should I care about it? I don't know, but like it might be Marcus Smart getting a screen and then Tatum's relocating from the corner to the wing, gets an open three, like okay, cool. Let's get to Jokic. He's shooting the ball less, which I guess is not really shocking with MPJ and Jamal Murray back. As far as how Murray looks early on, I mean, as far as the stuff they're running, where it's Jokic and Murray, it's the handoff actions, it's Jokic screening for Murray, it all looks pretty normal. It's mostly right now just about Murray getting back to his best self pretty much. As in, he's just got to make his jump shots. I mean, throughout his career, damn near 70% of his shot attempts have been jumpers. Murray was cooking against the Thunder last night. I think Jokic taking less shots is better for the team overall, but specifically for his MVP case, I mean, okay. But he's still been great. I don't want to imply otherwise. Now let's get to Steph, because it's like, well, why can't Steph win a third MVP? As far as his individual performance, he's Steph Curry. There's not really a whole lot to say. The guy's amazing. As for the Warriors as a whole, it's been a little awkward. Against Miami, the Heat were busting out a zone defense occasionally. Bam was kind of able to lock down the free throw line as a help defender, but also close out to Clay, who would be in the corner for a three. The lineup numbers suggest that the starting lineup's fine, and it's really everything else that's the problem. I want to do a video about the Warriors where I'll dive into it more, but I guess a little thing about yesterday's Orlando game, besides Jalen Suggs having the best 30 seconds you could possibly have as an NBA player at the end, they've had some communication problems on defense. One guy thinks it's a hedge, another guy thinks it's a switch. They committed a lot of bad fouls in the Magic game, especially in transition, if I'm remembering correctly. Now let's get to Dame, who unfortunately is already out with a little injury here, but as far as Dame is concerned, I feel like he's normal Dame. He's been carrying the Blazers offense for years, where if he's healthy, they're pretty much guaranteed to get, a top 5 offense, give or take. The biggest thing to me is, number one, their defense. They made adjustments. They're not having Nurkic trap on ball handlers all the time. Sometimes he'll be a little below the level of the screen. Sometimes he'll be in a drop, and it's keeping their defense out of rotation as much, which I think is helping a lot. And then besides that, they're just an athletic team. I mean, you got Josh Hart averaging 9 boards a game, Jeremy Grant. I was concerned about Shaedon Sharp's shot selection in preseason. Hasn't been a problem so far. He's very athletic. Justice Winslow having a bit of a resurgence. Nasir Little, just a lot of athleticism and a better defense. Now for Donovan Mitchell. So the thing with Mitchell in his million pick and rolls per game, especially when Darius Garland wasn't playing, is that he's made his shot selection just more efficient. Some more threes, and he has cut out a little bit of those floaters that he would go to, and he's turned those more into shots at the rim. And he's also getting fouled a touch more. I think there was a play against the Knicks that just kind of summed it up, where he gets a screen from Mobley on the right wing. He's got Mitchell Robinson playing basically at the level with RJ on his back. And he has this moment where he has this opportunity for a pull-up mid-range, and I think in years past he would have taken it. Instead, he hits Mitchell Robinson with this hesitation move to freeze him for a second, and then before you know it, he's under the basket and it's a three-point play. Not to say he never did that, but I just think this year he's leaning into it more often. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you look at the math, which matters, it ends up being a big deal. Let's talk about Siakam for a bit. He's currently averaging 26, 10, and 8. And the Raptors, they're just leaning on him even more as a shot creator, a ball handler. He's basically tied with Fred for the leading touches per game on the team. And man, there was a time where the improvement to his handle was there, but there was the question of, can he go to the next level where he can string moves together and he can just beat guys off the dribble consistently, run pick and roll as the ball handler. He's doing it, man. I mean, he's putting on a guard impression a lot of the time, where it's he's got between the legs, he's got hesitations, he's got crossovers, he's just got straight line drive dribbles that work. His improvement as a ball handler, shot creator, all that is as rare as you're going to find in the NBA. Not from last season to this season, but more so where he was years ago compared to now. And with that, he's drawing help, he's making the obvious passes, but I think he's also doing a better job at anticipating where the help is going to be, and it's pretty wild. Devin Booker. So with Book, they've had some interesting plays where he has screened for Chris Paul, or at least has been in the same vicinity as CP, the ball handler, and maybe he'll flash to either direction or whatever to freak the defense out. Similar to Mitchell, Booker has also had a little bit of a shot selection adjustment where it's a little bit more at the rim and a little bit less from basically everywhere else. Besides that, to move it away from basketball, because that was the thing with this team, the vibes seem good right now, man. Let's talk about my MVP pick, Embiid. He definitely did not start the season like I envisioned he would. Even so, I think his scoring has been a little underrated, to be honest. It is expected that Harden is going to be out for a month with a foot tendon strain, so they're going to be leaning on Joel a lot, we would imagine, which most likely means more post-ups, more face-ups, because ever since they got Harden, Embiid has leaned a little bit away from that stuff and a little more into screen setting. It also doesn't help that, as I've said and other people on the internet have said, Philly, between their offense being a little too slow sometimes, the spacing around Embiid post-ups not being as good as it really could be, that has not helped, even if Joel is still good enough to where there could be 3 dudes around him and he's still going to get his trips to the line, he's still going to make his shots, and it'd be awesome. But the other thing is the defense. So Joel, I mean, he did have the foot thing over the summer, and I don't think he's in peak shape right now. Sure, I think there are some possessions where he's not moving as laterally as you'd really like him to, or his hands are down a little more than you really like, but I'm not that concerned right now. I think by game, 20 or so, he'll be back to being awesome defensively. The perimeter defense has also not done him a lot of favors so far. Let's talk about Kevin Durant. So KD's making basically every shot he attempts right now. And even with that said, I cannot in confidence be like, yeah, the Nets can get a top whatever seed so Kevin Durant can compete for an MVP. I just can't do it, man. Okay. Do I need to go into more than that? I suppose I can mention LeBron as well right now. The Lakers would need to go on as heroic of a run as you could possibly imagine. And they have won 2 in a row, so that's nice, but I'm not going to bet on that one, man. Also, LeBron's efficiency just has to be better. And finally, I want to mention SGA. So, I don't know what OKC's record is going to be by whatever point of the season you want to pick. But for right now, I want to mention him because he's been just kind of insane. He might be the best mid-range shooter in the league so far this season. I have not looked at everyone's mid-range numbers, but he's got to be up there. And he had a play against the Magic recently that I think just kind of sums up Shea, where he gets Wendell on a switch and hits him with a couple of size-up moves, left-handed dribble, and Wendell got off balance just for a second, and it led to a step back, like 14-footer or whatever from SGA. He is the master at defender relaxes for half a second because he's not just going 100 miles an hour trying to drive at you all the time, Shea is. And then in that 1 second, he's gone and he's going to the rim. But I think that's the long list of names right now. Number 1 right now is Giannis, and we'll just see as we go.